You know you want to get into instructional design, but not sure exactly the skills that you need to become an instructional designer? Well, friends, don't worry, I've got you. Today, I'm going to break down exactly the skills that you need to break into your first instructional design gig. Hi friends, my name is Vanessa Alzate, and on this channel, I help aspiring instructional designers and e-learning developers get off of the sidelines and get into the L&D game. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing for you today. There are kind of three areas of instructional design skills, and I break them down into hard skills, soft skills, and entrepreneurial skills. And underneath those are different types of skills, but those are like your three buckets of skills that you need in order to be an instructional designer. Let's start with the hard skills. What do you actually have to know as an instructional designer to get the job done? Outside of instructional design theory and all of those things that I chatted about last week, you also really need to be good at writing. It has become a lost art to get a piece of content or to get a ton of content dumped on you and be able to make sense of it. We're so focused on the tool and articulate storyline and creating e-learnings and videos that we forget that at the end of the day, when we boil it all down, we're talking about writing, right? Like if it's poorly written, doesn't matter how pretty it is, no one's going to learn from it. And that is a skill you have to have. Now, do you have to be the best writer out there? Absolutely not. You need to be a strong writer, but you don't need to, be like the grammar police or anything like that. That is what copy editors and people who really specialize in writing in QC, that's what they can do for you. But you still have to know how to write and how to write for learning and how to write to engage your audience, how to write a story to engage your audience, right? How to motivate your audience through your writing, through the tasks that they're doing, right? So those are the areas of writing that I'm really talking about, right? And you have to be strong in those skills. The next hard skill you are going to need is curriculum development. There are going to be times that you just get content thrown on you and content dumped on you, and you have to make sense of it and create it into a modularized series, right? So how do you know from beginning to end what all the people need to know in order to do the job? That is something that is a skill that has to be taught, but also is a skill that has to be refined. So know that when you start out in the field, you're writing your curriculum development, it's not going to be like the best of the best. You really do need to practice a skill, and it continues to get better over time. You learn things, you pull things from other experiences, you face new challenges, and that all makes you better. But you really want to focus as an instructional designer, really understanding how to develop curriculum, how to get from point A to point B to point Z. And the last area that you need to focus on when we talk about hard skills is e-learning and digital media development. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to run out and go take a course on articulate storyline. Don't worry about the actual mechanics of how to put together an e-learning module, how to actually develop. What I want you to focus more on is the idea of incorporating e-learning into your training plan, right? Into your learning plan. Where could it stand alone? Where does it need to complement? How do you blend it with an instructor-led training? When is it appropriate to include a quick explainer video? When should you use micro-learn videos or TikTok-style videos? That is what I mean. And understanding the types of things that can be done in tools like articulate storyline and things like that, so that you can focus on building up your skill in writing and curriculum development and perhaps writing storyboards for e-learning developers to then take and bring to life. And while you're doing that, you're honing your skill in those areas, and then you can really build a business out of that to then support maybe taking an articulate class or support you paying the $1,000 for the articulate storyline license, those types of things. So don't feel like you have to dive into knowing all the things. Really understand and know and learn instructional design, what motivates learners, the writing aspect of it, the true instructional design part of it, before you worry about the development side. Because if you can build your business and build that income based off of that, that is going to help you later on when you actually get into the development phase. And you may realize, you know what? I'm really good at this side of things. I don't have an interest in playing around in an articulate storyline, and that's okay. You could always bring in or partner with someone else to work on the development portion of it while you focus on the writing and the instructional design and maybe managing the client, and pass it over to someone else to do the development. Now, that doesn't necessarily work if you are, in a full-time position where, you are expected to do all the things. But as a freelancer, you really get to develop the type of business you want to build. So you can write into your contract that you may subcontract a part of the work to someone else to do the development. Doesn't mean anything changes for them. The price is what you're quoting them, and they're still working directly with you. You're just going to be outsourcing that piece in order to give them a better product. So you'll want to know about e-learning and digital learning development, but don't worry about getting into the nooks and the crannies of it. I want you to take a moment and leave a comment down below. What is an area or a piece of instructional design that you feel like you really need help in, right? Is it writing? Is it instructor-led training development? Is it e-learning? Leave a comment down below and let's have a conversation about where it is that you go to help hone those skills, or if you haven't found the right tool or the right resource to help you with those skills. Maybe a future video can get developed based on what you're looking for. So leave a comment down below. The next area is your soft skills. And this is a little bit more up to interpretation, but honestly, the most successful instructional designers that really make a mark in the field and really take off have these skills. And these are must-haves, not nice-to-haves. First of all, you have to be visionary. Now, I don't mean that you're like sitting off in the cloud, visionary, like dreaming all these big dreams. You can be someone like me that's a little bit more practical, but also visionary. And honestly, I thought for the longest time, I kind of contradicted myself, but through conversations I've had with my team or people that know me really, really well, it is a skill and it's not in conflict with each other. It just means that I can see the vision, but I can also stop and see what the step-by-step pieces are. To be an instructional designer, sometimes you have to be able to see the beauty of the destination when all you're looking at is a pile of SHIT. Actually, honestly, that's a lot of the work. A lot of times you're thrown really crappy content and really bad things put together, and you have to imagine what it could look like and what's the best solution for it. And if you're someone that wants to be a thought leader and wants to really become someone who writes about instructional design and speaks on stages and speaks at conferences, having that visionary aspect is critical and really, really, really something that you'll need because you have to envision the next thing. You also have to envision the next thing for your clients. Sometimes they can't see and they can't see past their own way, right? They get in their own way. And you have to be the one that helps to see the future for them and helps to figure out a way to get there and gives them a step-by-step path to get there. And sometimes you're the one that's like holding onto their hand and dragging them along, but you have to be that person. You have to be the one that owns and stands up for instructional design and doing things the right way for the learner. The next thing that you're going to need is to be a strategic thinker. Often you are going to be working with clients that are not going to want to change. They just want to see pretty things. In fact, I just was asked to provide a quote. If I gave you, they literally said this. If I gave you a PowerPoint deck, since we all know the content, can you just like make it pretty? No. That's not what I do. And then I launched into talking about really step-by-step thinking about what it is their end goal is, talking to their learners and doing like that strategy aspect of it and the importance of why we have to do that, right? You have to be the one that's a strategic thinker because at the end of the day, if the change does not happen in the learners, the first thing they're going to say is the training didn't work. They're never going to blame themselves. They're never going to blame their learners. They're always going to first and foremost say, well, learning development didn't give us a good enough product. Huh? No. You have to be the one that stands up for instructional design and says, okay, let's strategically think about how this is actually going to work and what it is that you want to do at the end. And understand that this is how you're going to get there. If you want something that's going to be pretty, by all means, go right ahead. Go make something pretty. Go get yourself a graphic designer and make it pretty. But what you're going to have happen is that in a year, 2 years, you're going to be turning around and saying that training didn't work. It wasn't what the learner needs. Or you're going to have to be redoing everything again because you didn't take the time, the care to really think about the entire process and what exactly the plan would be. So you as the instructional designer have to be that strategic thinker. Is it always going to go your way? No, but at least you've put your stamp out there, and you could always come back and say, well, I told you not to do that. These are the reasons why you should have, paused, take a moment, and put something out there that was a little bit different and more in line with what the learners were saying that they needed, as opposed to what you thought that they needed. And now you're going to have to pay twice because we have to do it again. Now that I've said that, the third area that you need as an instructional designer is to be empathetic. And not just empathetic with your client, but empathetic with your learner. So really thinking about, okay, like, what is the day in their life, right? You are their advocate, right? So you are the one that has to put out their content that is going to be able to fit in their day, that's going to make sense for them, that's not going to try to add something else to their day that they just might not have time for. By leading with empathy, you're going to integrate that into your content and integrate that into your writing. And that's going to come out in the tone, and that's going to come out in the word choices that you make. And that is then going to come out and make an impact on your learner. And they are going to be less stressed when they take the training, right? They're going to be less resistant to it because they're going to feel and sense the empathy behind it. And also, as a bonus, being empathetic is amazing when it comes to sales and selling and bringing in new clients, right? If you can empathize with your potential client or with your current client, it is going to take you a really far way to build that relationship and build that partnership for the future. So I want you to take a moment and think about how you can practice empathy and how you can model that. And listen, it doesn't come straight for everyone, and when you're in the beginning of your career, it's definitely a skill that takes practice and a skill you have to continue to practice. Don't beat yourself up if you're not like the most empathetic listener or something like that. Just keep practicing. Model, role play. There's literally nothing wrong with you doing sales presentations and asking your colleagues to pretend like they're a potential client or a potential stakeholder and running through some scenarios and role playing those scenarios. I mean, that's how you're going to get better. And then with that, the last soft skill I really want you to focus on is relationship building. Instructional design is all relationship building. Frankly, most of your time outside of writing is going to be spent wrangling in subject matter experts and wrangling in stakeholders. You're really going to be working with a lot of people. And if you can't build relationships with those people, it's not going to be as successful for you. You have to be able to connect with the other person and create that connection so that they gain that buy-in into you, the process, and they're less likely to ghost you, right? Especially subject matter experts. They're so busy, but if you can create that relationship and you can make that connection with them, it is going to be a lot harder for them to ghost you and not give you what you need. So will they be the perfect means? No. Will they be the perfect stakeholders? No. But if you're able to build those relationships, it's going to make for a much, much, much better project, right? It's going to make for a much better relationship and an easier process for you. If you can create better relationships with stakeholders, they're going to continuously come to you when they have a problem. You're going to be the first person that they think of to help solve their problem. If you can build those relationships with your subject matter experts, you can ensure that you will get better information, better data from them in the beginning. And then again, less chance of them ghosting you at the end. So work on building relationships. And listen, sometimes the only thing you have in common with that person is the fact that you both breathe air. Someone told me that and I thought it was the best thing I could have ever heard. And yeah, sometimes the only thing you have in common is that you both breathe air. But then you know what I'm going to talk about? How lovely the air is today. And last but not least, the area that you really do need to focus on as an instructional designer is your entrepreneurial side, right? And focusing on having an abundance mindset first and foremost, especially if you're looking to be a freelancer. If you're coming at it from a place of scarcity or a place of famine or freelancer mindset, I can promise you will make bad decisions. I can promise you're going to take on too much work when you really don't have the capacity for it. I can promise you are going to see less opportunity when you're in that time. You have like a kind of a stank of desperation and people are just not going to be attracted to that. People are attracted to people who have positive, abundant mindsets, right? Your colleagues that are also freelancers, your other instructional designers that are out there on LinkedIn, they're not your competition. They are your community. You can learn a lot from them. There is enough for everybody to eat. So once you have that realization and you can come from that abundance mindset and the mindset that everything is a learning opportunity, whether or not it goes your way, you are going to see lots of change in your business. It will not be overnight and you have to work for it. But I can tell you when I made that shift, especially that shift from freelancer to CEO, the entire trajectory of the business completely changed. Takes work, takes a lot of renegotiating or understanding the stories that you're telling yourself in your head, but it's definitely doable. And I just alluded to it, but you want to make sure that as an instructional designer, you have that CEO mindset. Now, if you're an in-house instructional designer, this can really still work well for you because it's helping you really think about the business and the business needs, not just the learning needs. And you'll be able to really pull in and gain buy-in from a lot of other stakeholders. Now, if you're a freelancer, the shift from freelancer to CEO is a huge, huge, huge mindset shift, right? And not something overnight. And I regret that it took me so long to get to CEO mindset. As a freelancer, I thought I had to be all the things. I thought I had to do all of the things. I thought I had to accept and say yes to every single project, even if the red flags were literally like waving right in front of my face. You don't have to do that, right? You can still pick and choose what it is that you are working on. When I made that shift to CEO mindset, I stopped making choices out of desperation and I started making choices out of what was best for my business. And again, that trajectory completely changed. Making that realization that I am a CEO, I have to act like it. I have to work in the business, not just on the business. Well, that is game changing, right? For so long, I spent so much of my time working in the business that I completely ignored the business. And where I am today is amazing. And I wouldn't take it back for anything and all the challenges and the things that I've learned along the way. But I do sometimes wonder I wonder where I would be if I had actually did a little bit work on my business. So make sure you're taking time to work on your business. And hey, even if you're an in-house instructional designer, you should still be taking time to work on yourself, right? Professional development, updating your resume, looking at updating your portfolio samples and making sure that your best work is out there. That's never a bad thing, and you never know what the future might bring. So it's really important that you're constantly making sure that side of the house is clean in case anything changes and you need to go back out there looking for something new. So now that you're all jazzed and ready to get into instructional design and ready to hone in on these skills, I want you to take a moment and I want you to check out this next video. This next video is everything that you need to become an instructional designer in 2022. Friends, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.